No. All right, so we're now starting the episode without even explaining the actual show to Jeff, but hopefully, we explain enough in there, prior to the show and the DMs to be able to get a bit. Jeff, what you got going on, man? How you been?
I am good. I'm busy. I'm doing lots of stuff. It's off season, so that's good times for rankings and dynasty and rookies and drafts and trading and shoot, man, all kinds of stuff. And I'm also doing a lot of video editing and design work too, as well, with various different entities in the fantasy industry and such.
Dude, it's crazy to think that it's been a year since you've been on this pod. Like, I feel like it was, just a few months ago.
Yeah, time flies, man. It sure does. It's, shoot, we're going to be talking about 2023 soon.
God, man. I feel like we should already start.
I'm 100% ready. A couple of my leagues, I got like 5 2023 rookie picks, first round rookie picks. I'm all ready to get Bijan and Bryce and CJ Stroud and just dominate for the next 25 years in those leagues. Because that's how it works. It always works out correctly like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're drafting Bijan, how can you not dominate for the next 25 years? He's going to last that long. All right, you guys ready to kick the show off?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
What is up, everybody? Welcome on into another episode of Fantasy Intervention. We're coming at you hot and heavy tonight, of course, with my co-host Shane is the worst. What's going on, Shane? How you doing?
Hey, happy to be here.
Wahoo! Yeah, exactly. Who wouldn't be happy to be here? And then we have a special guest, and we got Jeff joining us. It's been a long year since we've been able to have Jeff in the room, but Jacob couldn't make it because Jacob's going to court for something right now. So, yeah, we decided to bring Jeff in. Jacob's not going to like that one too much. But how you doing, Jeff? What's going on, man?
I am great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And you guys are looking good.
Dude, you're looking good. Look at you, man. You got a new house, I see, a new place to do your podcast from. What is that, Panther Stadium?
Yeah, that's the suite in Bank of America Stadium. That's right.
I like it. I like it.
And I have my Mets jersey on.
Well, I don't like that so much. If you weren't our guest, I would boo you, and I will boo you at some point under my breath. But
that reminds me of a time when I actually wore this very jersey to a Phillies game in Philadelphia against the Mets. And I think the only reason why I wasn't booed out of the stadium was because I had my my young son. I was holding him and enjoying the game and all that. But it was fun.
Usually it's just fun booing. It's fun booing in jest until someone responds, and then all of a sudden it's like,
and then it's blood in the water.
Yeah,
blood in the water. Yeah, if you just kind of let it go, it's like whatever.
I'll tell you what though, I don't want to dwell on it, but if you're gonna go to a Phillies game versus a lot of Mets fans, because New York isn't that far from Philly, so there's a lot of Mets fans. So you're usually fairly safe, and as long as it isn't the drunk kids bothering you, you're usually fine.
Right.
Oh man, so on tonight's show we actually have two different divisions coming at you. We have the NFC West and the NFC North. We're going to break down some of the best sleepers from each division, some of the best values, some of those guys that you definitely want to move, if you have them on your rosters before the season starts, because they could end up tanking in value, and then possibly some of the MVPs. So starting with that, let's start with the MVPs. Let's talk a little bit about some of the MVPs we feel like could actually win you divisions. And these are going to be guys that might not go in the first 3 rounds of drafts, but somebody that could end up going in the next 3 rounds of drafts next year, who could approach that top 5, at their position, or top 12 at their position. Last year we saw Justin Jefferson do just that. He solidified his spot amongst the top 3 receivers, probably top 2 receivers in the NFL. We've seen now Cooper Kupp potentially move, into that zone from the West. But from the NFC North, is there a guy like maybe Darnell Mooney or Amon-Ra St. Brown that you could see ascending into that top tier of receivers, or at least get into that league winning category? And I'll start out down there with Jeff on this one.
So, yeah, you mentioned Mooney and you mentioned Amon St. Brown, and I like St. Brown, and I think a lot of people do. And, I think certain people are not quite sure what to expect coming up this year, because you've got Deandre Swift returning, you've got Hawkinson returning, and how is St. Brown going to fit into that mix? Well, I think he's going to do just fine. I think he's going to be the guy to go to. Jameson Williams is not. He's not even in training camp yet, so he's got a long way to go. I don't think he'll be a key part of that offense, at least not right off the bat. Maybe second half of the season, but by then, it's going to be St. Brown's game to dominate. So I like St. Brown a lot. I don't know if you want to go ahead and talk about that, but another guy I like is Ellen Lazard. But feel free to talk about St. Brown.
Well, Shane, go ahead. You can start with Amon-Ra St. Brown, because I'm not sold yet. So maybe you can sell me on it if you're on board with him.
So there's all these contrary things about him, right? Like, I come from, hey, you earn your targets, the school of you earn your targets, right? So he had a high target share last year. And then the other half of me goes, yeah, but literally no one else was on the field. But by the same token, I've seen wide receivers in the same situation, like Jalen Reagor, completely just crap themselves when they were given that same opportunity. I get what Jeff's saying with Jameson Williams. Like, yeah, he's not even practicing yet. It doesn't even sound like they're expecting him to be ready week 1. Amon-Ra St. Brown might be legit, and Jacob has brought it up before about his PFF grade. And the PFF grade, he's one of the higher PFF grades for rookie wide receivers, and he listed everyone that was in that cohort, and it was just guys that all hit.
Yeah, he scored an 80.0 in the receiving grade for PFFs. In comparison, like Darnell Mooney did 74.9. Adam Thielen was a 73.5 last season. So, yeah, he's definitely, in that top tier echelon of rookie wide receivers for sure.
Yes, if I had to bet, if it's a binary choice, whether the guy's going to be a hit or a miss, I'm going to go with he's a hit. He hit in his rookie year. And that is all the things I preach is if you hit in your rookie year as a wide receiver, I'm supposed to believe in you. So I can't just be biased against him because, I didn't like his draft capital where he landed and all the other excuses as to why he produced.
Yeah. Are you guys not concerned at all that, I don't know. It's weird for me because you would think that they would end up double covering Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? And that he would see, more pressured coverage that way because there was nobody else on the team in terms of receiving. Yet I feel like although he could have beat some of the double teams that he faced, it really wasn't that heavy on the pressure. Plus, a lot of his production was done while teams were playing prevent defense. I'm not saying all of it, but there was a big chunk portion that was done, late in the fourth quarter of games where, teams weren't really competing anymore. So does that concern you at all? Or are you just looking at this target share? Are you looking at the PFF grade and you're like, oh, I am on board. Let's go with this.
Well, let's talk about the facts here real quick. And it's one thing to say, yeah, maybe there was some garbage time involved, but he still had double-digit targets in each of the last 6 games. And he had 5 touchdowns in 5 different of those games. So, he's consistent and he showed what he is able to do, regardless of whether or not teams knew it was going to him. They didn't, nobody else. And he's not necessarily going to be sneaking up on anyone this year. That's not going to be the case, especially if he hits the ground running, just like he did in the remainder of the year. But when I see someone with double-digit targets and 5 touchdowns in 6 games, that's enough for me to say that this guy understands the playbook, understands how to get open, understands how to score. His offensive coordinator knows how to get him the ball, as well as the quarterback. He's a part of the game plan. I don't think that's going away, not just because other people are coming back. he's still going to be a key piece of that offense, and I'm all for it. I think he's someone that you should target and that you should buy the dip while people think that he's not quite there.
Yeah, and there's no reason to believe that TJ Hawkinson's a transcendent tight end, as much as I want to believe it, because, physically, him and Noah Fant, I was in love with both of them. But, we're going into year 3 of it, and we haven't seen that he's actually transcendent yet, right? His other competition's DJ Chark. I mean, whatever. Deandre Swift saw a ton of targets last year, but they weren't especially productive. So, if they're trying to win, which I'm thinking they'd like to win a couple games, just here and there, they might hyper target Armand. And you try to be agnostic to the player and look at indicators, and all the indicators is that he should be a hit.
All right, so let's move on to, possibly another player in this division. I'm going to go with Deandre Swift. I think that Deandre Swift is somebody that we're seeing climb up the draft boards extremely quickly, but I don't think he's reached, his ceiling of where he could be. I believe, Shane, correct me if I'm wrong if you have the ADP up, but the average draft position for Swift the last time I checked, I believe, is right around the late second, early third round. And, I mean, he could end up being a top 5 running back this season. Shane, did you by any chance have the DLF ADP up?
Well, I do. He's the running back 2 in May.
Is he really?
Yeah, in May Superflex ADP.
All right, well, scratch that. I was looking at something else, I guess.
So in regards to DeAndre Swift, I love what he brings to the table, but in my opinion, in order for him to be like a top 3, top 5 type of fantasy back, he has to rack up more rushes. He had 150 carries last year. That's who knows? We might be able to see more than that. We saw that with Christian McCaffrey when he first came out, right? He was a rookie. His carries weren't that high, and then they jumped, right? So maybe that's the case that we see with Swift. We know he had that shoulder injury. He's obviously a very good receiver. He's a key part of that offense. But I think in order for him to go to that next level, he needs to be able to run the ball more consistently. He only had one game last year with over 14 carries. One. And he had 33 carries in that one game.
Yeah.
I need to see him do more in terms of a rusher. And, I think that will also help with his rushing touchdowns. He only had 7 touchdowns last year. 7 touchdowns. That's not bad. 5 rushing, 2 receiving. But yeah, I think in order for him to reach that next level, the rushing yards have got to start coming out of Detroit. I mean, he's got to be able to be more of a running back as a rusher and not just as a receiver. Even though it's still good fantasy wise, it's not quite putting him into that next echelon of elite type of running backs, in my opinion.
Hey Chase, if you want a running back out of the NFC North, I'd suggest you go get David Montgomery.
No.
I'd say Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones
Thielen,
is wildly cheap. No, Aaron Jones is so cheap right now, and it's because everyone's scared of AJ. There's no reason that both of those guys can't be top 15 running backs the way that offense is going to be set up. But I'm taking David Montgomery. He's like running back 17 in ADP right now. Everyone always hates David Montgomery, and I get it. I did after his rookie season because I was like, oh, this is not what I was promised. I was promised this franking running back, and this isn't what he is. But, since then, he's actually been really productive, and he's a true legit 3-down back. And we saw it last year when Khalil Herbert took over while he was out. And as soon as Montgomery came back, they said, Khalil Herbert, thank you for your sacrifices, but now you're going back to the bench, and you're never going to see the ball again. But yeah, I like Aaron Jones too.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of conversation around there about how Khalil Herbert could actually take over, 40% of the carries. Yet Dave Montgomery, I think, is on the last year of his contract. Meanwhile, we have Josh Jacobs, who everybody's like, oh, he's going to get fed the ball over and over again. It's the last year on his contract. They're going to force feed him the rock. It's like, wait, what side of the argument are we on? Are these fan bases that are arguing, or is this actual arguments amongst the fantasy community that is literally arguing two different sides of the coin? So let's go to A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Jeff, which one of these running backs do you have for 2022 and beyond?
Well, 2022, I really like Aaron Jones. I think he's a really good value, especially the more we see A.J. Dillon's thighs on Twitter and social media, and everyone's talking about how he's the next running back in Green Bay. I don't necessarily see that. I see him more as a complementary back to Aaron Jones, and Jones is still the guy that they want running the ball the majority of the time, and he's also a much better receiver, and he's someone that Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, kind of gravitates to more. So in that regard, I think that's a positive or a big feather in his cap, especially without those 176 something targets that Devontae Adams had. So that offense is going to be different this year. And I think that Aaron Jones is going to get maybe a spike in value, spike in production as a result of just uncertainty in the offense.
Shane, how do you feel about these two guys? Which route are you going for this one?
I mean, because I'm looking at it in my dynasty. Oh, no, who am I kidding? It's running back, so I don't look any further than 2 years out.
Yeah.
Straight up Aaron Jones. I mean, he's the more versatile, more complete back, and we've seen what he can do as a receiver. I mean, and look, A.J. Dillon, I know you're going to tell me A.J. Dillon's much better receiver than blah, 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 blah. Aaron Jones is head and shoulders above him. I don't care what stats you're going to throw at me that you're going to cherry pick. I already know you've got them already cherry picked, and they're already on your blackboard behind you. I've done this show with you for a while. I know how you are. And cost-wise, Aaron Jones, like, I'm telling you, if I throw 3 second-round rookie picks at someone, they're going to give me Aaron Jones.
No, I definitely normally do have stuff prepared. This is probably the first time I didn't have anything prepared for you because I do have stats on A.J. Dillon. I just don't have them queued up right now as to why A.J. Dillon is actually the superior option.
I know. Tweet it out later. I remember last year you went through this whole diatribe about it, and I blacked out like halfway through. And, but yeah, I remember it.
Oh, man, I love me some A.J. Dillon, and I definitely think that he's the back to own, especially in dynasty leagues. We can end up seeing a very similar paths to success, how we saw Derrick Henry go. I mean, their stats are almost identical over the first few years in the league, seeing the same sort of discrepancy in touches, yardage, yards per carry, every one of those aspects. And I'm not saying he's the same guy because I don't think that A.J. Dillon has the upper body strength that Derrick Henry has, but I do think that he'll make up for it in the receiving game. I think that we're selling A.J. Dillon short in terms of that. But let's hop over to tight ends real quick, because we have Jesse Horsted, who actually had the best receiving ranking for tight ends amongst the NFC North. But no, it was TJ Hawkinson who was actually the best tight end receiver out of this group. And it's not like he had a ton of competition. We were talking about like Jimmy Graham, Tyler Conklin, Cole Kmet. But is there a tight end that kind of breaks the mold? Like, do we actually see it from TJ Hawkinson this year? Does Cole Kmet finally break out like we've been waiting for? Is he going to end up getting what O'Shaughnessy, I think, is the backup tight end over there? Is he going to get vultured by O'Shaughnessy in the red zone like what happened with Jimmy Graham in 2021? Shane, we'll start out with you on this one.
So I like, look, I'm just like everyone else that plays fantasy football. I'm either going to pay a lot for a tight end or absolutely nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and get me some Irv Smith because he was the hotness, 2 years ago. Dude gets injured, and all of a sudden we're just like, you know what? He was never that good. Like, you're like, guys, he missed a year from injury. Like, nothing changed. You loved him the year before that. So I'm willing to throw out some money to get me some Irv Smith. Do I think he'll hit? Probably not, but he's right in that price range that I like for tight ends. He's cheap enough, and I think the upside is there.
Two things changed, Shane. Two things.
Yes.
They lost Kyle Rudolph, they lost Tyler Conklin. So now all of a sudden he's pretty much all in. Who is their backup tight end over there? Do you guys know off the top of your head?
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
It's Ben Ellefson.
Oh, yeah.
Irv Smith is going to blow up this year. He's going to see all the red zone targets. He's going to see all the work off the play action fake. He's going to be a beast on third down. I love that take. Jeff, how do you feel about Irv Smith Jr., or do you like another tight end more?
I mean, he definitely has potential, and that's kind of what we're looking for when we're looking for a later round pick that we can grab, and Irv Smith can be your tight end 2, maybe even your tight end 3, depending on your league, and he might be able to venture into that top 10, top 12 territory. We were very high on him before he got hurt, and then of course Conklin came into the picture. And the offense just kind of changed a little bit. But now that he's kind of the go-to receiving threat as the tight end on that team, yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good. Now, the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is the fact that, it's been this is his third year. He's fairly young. And, usually by that second year, third year or so is when they start to kind of take off a little bit. But, we've seen tight ends get to this point and they either take off or they kind of fade away, right? So this, I think, is going to be a telling year for him. He's someone that I would take a chance on. You're not really spending much in terms of draft capital on him. And, you could wind up with a player that turns into a starter for you every week. So, yeah, Smith, out of all of the tight ends in the NFC North, I mean, I like Cole Kmet. I do. I don't necessarily like Chicago's passing offense. That needs to change. But Justin Fields needs to turn into more of a passer in order for me to really feel comfortable about Cole Kmet. But because that offense doesn't really have too many playmakers outside of Darnell Mooney, I mean, Kmet could have some decent stats.
I mean, there's nobody else to throw to.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned Hawkinson. I don't want to forget about him. I like him. I think we all like him, right? He's the known commodity. So, he's not necessarily someone to target in that regard. He's kind of like the tight end that you are hoping to be elite when you can't get an elite tight end. And that's kind of how I feel a little bit about Hawkinson. I would almost rather wait a little bit and see if I could get a tight end that I can get as a tight end too, who could potentially turn into something.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we need to keep in mind, when it comes to moving down the ranks in terms of these guys, and also maybe possibly moving off of Hawkinson. But you mentioned a guy that I want to bring up when it comes to the quarterback position. That's Justin Fields. I mean, have we seen an uglier team in terms of offense weapons for a second-year quarterback? I mean, this is bad. Like, the Bears are bad. They let go of a bunch of starters. They didn't bring in a ton of guys. Their draft was meh. I mean, what, Velus Jones, right? Was the wide receiver they brought in?
Right, and then the head coach that they brought in, Matt Eberflus,
is a defensive guy.
Is a defensive-oriented guy. So now we're at the question of, well, what's the offense going to do, right? What is who's their offensive coordinator?
It's the quarterback coach for the Packers, right? Or is that Minnesota?
I forget his name. Anyway, that's there we go.
That's all you need to know.
I should know his name. I remember. I can't remember.
Luke Getsy. Yeah,
Luke Getsy. That's it.
Yeah, from Green Bay, right?
Yeah, he was a QB coach.
Yep. That was him. Dude, it's not pretty. I mean, he's had Aaron Rodgers calling the shots over there for. I mean, how weird is it that they hire on the quarterback coach for Aaron Rodgers as if the quarterback coach did anything at all? I mean, the one job that he probably had was develop Jordan Love, and obviously he hasn't really done that. Well, so what the hell?
Aaron Rodgers has had a pretty decent career, and I'm pretty sure it's all because of Luke Getsy. So, and look, Aaron Rodgers has most of his career has had just like one legitimate wide receiver every season, right? Going back, I guess he had Jordy and
James Jones, Jordy Nelson, that whole fun time.
Yeah, he had that. But since then, lately it's just been Devontae and no one. And then this year they went with the no one approach. So maybe that's why they got the quarterback coach from Green Bay, so he could go to Justin Fields and be like, look, if Aaron Rodgers can do it, you can do it. You have Darnell Mooney, you're fine.
Dude, it's so absurd to me. I mean, all right.
So the thing with Green Bay, can we talk about them for a minute?
Yeah, let's do it.
If history repeats itself and Aaron Rodgers just finds his guy, all right, well, great. Who's his guy? Is it Alan Lazard, who he knows fairly well? Is it Christian Watson, who's got the number or the talent, the ability, but he's a little bit raw, right? I'm not sure if Watson is going to be that guy right out of the gate as a rookie. So that leads me to think that this is going to be Alan Lazard. And
I love Alan Lazard this year.
Alan Lazard is someone that you can get as like your wide receiver 4 or 5, and he can turn into a wide receiver 2.
Easily.
Especially in that offense, especially with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. and without, how many targets are they vacating? Almost 200 targets. There's a ton.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that we should be looking at now, and not have to go back week 6 and be like, oh man, I should have seen this coming.
So who's going to fill that out, or who's going to fill the MVS role? I think it's going to end up being Christian Watson, and then we're going to see most likely Lazard fill, what he can of the Devontae Adams role, but he's probably going to play the big slot, and they're probably going to redesign this offense. I mean, this is what head coach LaFleur's wanted this entire time. Like, this is what he's wanted. He wanted to shift this offense into the Tennessee Titans offense, where he could literally just run the ball down people's throats and be efficient at the wide receiver position, passing the ball when he wants to. But I mean, I broke it down. I mean, the Green Bay, first off, they run one of the slowest plays per game or pace of play in the entire league, and it's not. I don't even know if it's close. I think they're dead last or very close to it. But they were passing the ball a ton. They were passing the ball a ton. Normally, when you pass the ball a ton, you're doing up tempo. Now he gets to run the ball, and he gets to play a very slow pace of play. I mean, it is going to be a snore fest up there in Green Bay when you go to watch these games. It's going to be bad.
I think Sammy Watkins is also someone who could potentially turn into something. I mean, we've seen him before, right? He's an old guy, veteran, but that might just be a decent fit for him on this team. And Amari Rodgers, I don't think we can forget about him. He may take that Randall Cobb role that Randall Cobb used to have, even though Randall Cobb is still on the team. But Amari Rodgers is someone to think about as well, right? And I don't know. Christian Watson, I hope he has a good, strong rookie year. I have him in one of my dynasty leagues. I drafted him, I'm hoping that he turns into something. But I'm not so sure about year one. Could he? Absolutely, he could. We don't necessarily see rookies do that much, though, with Rodgers. So that gives me a little bit of pause.
That's the concern. He's a rookie, and he's not even. It'd be different if it was like Garrett Wilson was there. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, this guy's a technician on the field. Like, he's going to do what Rodgers wants him to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got a feeling Christian Watson's going to run the wrong route, and like Rodgers is just not going to talk to him.
Well, kind of like Devontae Adams did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Remember when I don't remember. It was like a Monday night, Thursday night game, and Rodgers let off on Adams, and it was just like,
No, I know Rodgers has never used tight ends, but I mean, Robert Tonyan, don't forget, had a blow up season. 2 seasons ago had a spree where he blew up games. Why can't it be Robert Tonyan? He's outside of Lazard and Cobb, which we don't think Cobb is going to be a factor. He's the longest tenured pass catching player. Maybe Aaron Jones is right there with him, but it's pretty even for the most part. This guy is somebody that we thought could end up being the second coming of George Kittle last season. He ends up playing like an injury-plagued season, doesn't see a ton of targets. Is there any possibility that he could actually make a play for it with Aaron Rodgers?
So he's one of those tight end twos that I was talking about earlier that you want to take a chance on. And, he got his big moment 2 years ago when he had like 10 or 11 touchdowns, whatever he had. And those touchdowns is what put him on that pedestal that we kind of view him as right now. Without those touchdowns, he's okay. So it just depends on how he's going to be sewn into that offensive structure. And is he going to be someone who is reliable, consistent, or are we relying on hopefully him catching more touchdowns? So that's yet to be seen. But when you're drafting him as a tight end too, it doesn't matter. You just have to wait for the production to come. And when it comes, there's your guy as a flex or whatever, or a trade option. That's what's so great about getting one of these like tight end twos, wide receiver 4-5s, and just watch them explode. And, they find your weekly roster. Either that or you can trade them to get someone to improve in a different position, a different area.
All they have to do is hit for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden we talk about the value going up. So, Shane, I do have a question for you. Would you like to hit on this first, or do you want to move on to the next question?
No, I was just going to bring up the fact that he had a 18.6 touchdown percentage rate.
Yeah, that's high.
It's a little high. Yeah.
That's high, man.
But look, tight end. I love tight end because it's the one position, and I think you've said this before. When you can stream them. Yeah, like you absolutely know who you can stream. Like, it's not like wide receivers. You're like, I don't know. Tight ends, you can predict. You like almost bank on it, like, oh, this guy's going to hit because the defense just doesn't care about tight end production against.
I don't know, man. I'm 50% on Andy Isabella, just saying. So let's go ahead and let's answer this question because Gator_J over there asked, Rodgers hates rookies. And honestly, how much is it, Shane, that Rodgers actually hates the rookies versus the organization not being able to draft rookie wide receivers, which is kind of why they've given up on it in the early rounds, because they know they're not good at drafting them. It could be a very, very similar situation to New England where they just suck at drafting wide receivers early.
Well, I mean, we could say that, except that they haven't been drafting wide receivers early. Like every time they've drafted wide receivers, minus Devontae Adams and Christian Watson, and I forget, Rodgers was a second or a third rounder.
He's a first rounder.
Amari?
Which
Amari.
Aaron Rodgers?
No, Amari.
Okay, yeah,
Amari,
I
third.
don't recall.
I think it's third or fourth.
Whatever. So they generally don't put a lot of draft capital in it. They were drafting guys like Equanimous St. Brown and I can't even remember Jamon Moore. And, you know what I mean? Like
there's another one. There's another one. He's still in the league, and I can't remember who it is right now.
They drafted 3 wide receivers in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, and they're like, "Good luck, Aaron."
So here's my take on that. The common denominator here is Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers the quarterback? Yes. Does he make the calls? Pretty much yes. Does he throw the ball to the receivers? Yes. Does he choose who he wants to throw it to? Yes. So if you're a rookie and you're not quite there yet, he's very similar to Tom Brady. Whereas if you need to run a 12-yard route and you run an 11-yard route, guess what? That's a problem. And Rodgers will make that known. We know that he likes to speak his mind and then tell his receivers off, right? So they gotta earn it, and that's why I think rookies kind of struggle in Green Bay. Although Randall Cobb was a good rookie in Green Bay.
Yeah, he hasn't hated all rookies.
And so was Greg Jennings.
Yeah, and again, these are guys that were like professionals when they came into the league. You know what I mean? It's just they were kind of like, all right, ready to go. Whereas that's why I'm so scared about Christian Watson, because I just see so much going wrong so quickly.
It's two ends of the spectrum. I think he's either going to be really good and we're going to be surprised, or we're really like, oh, it's Watson, not Lazard, who's turned into this guy that we really want. Or the other end of the spectrum where he's, maybe he gets scratched as a healthy scratch, as a rookie. If we see that, it's like, what? Take a step back. Oh, crap. Why is he my wide receiver 4 or, whatever. So
don't forget either, Lazard has Thanksgiving with Aaron Rodgers. Like, they are tight. Those two are like 2 peas in a pod. So, the Thanksgiving corollary does exist. Let's not, just throw it out the window. All right, so let's go ahead and let's move on to the NFC West. For those of you who have been waiting for the NFC West, because the NFC West is actually pretty entertaining. We have some MVP candidates in terms of Cooper Kupp, Marquise Brown. I could literally name probably 20 of them that could come out of it this year, because you never know what's going to happen with the NFC West. But one team that I know does not have a MVP candidate coming out of this division is probably the Seahawks. This offense is not set up very pretty at all. Drew Lock had a few good games. Cortland Sutton back in 2020. However, last year it was nothing. Like, Drew Lock was absolutely terrible. Are all the players on the Seahawks at this point almost overvalued because the offense is going to be so bad?
Yeah, the Seattle offense is kind of an area that I'm not necessarily targeting, and I don't really think anyone would. So if you're going to take guys like DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett in a draft this year and redraft, it better be someone, it better be a little bit later in the draft, where you can get good value, because if you try to take them at ADP or even before, which would be crazy, I don't think you're going to be too happy with that. And, there's not really much to say other than the fact that your quarterback is either Drew Lock or Geno Smith. And,
not pretty.
Not
but
pretty.
Did you see the training camp video where Geno Smith threw a bomb? It was a gorgeous ball, and it was to like a 3rd or 4th string wide receiver. But it was perfect. He looked great without pads on.
It's possible. He's got to win the job first. He doesn't even have the job yet.
Shane, do you think that Jacob's drafting DK Metcalf because he just values upside and not consistency?
Yes. Look, there's nothing more important in fantasy football than upside. I'm sorry. I look, I look at everything from a dynasty perspective. So like DK Metcalf's a screaming buy for me right now because everyone's like, oh my God, next year's going to be so bad. I got to get this guy off my roster. And I'm like, guys, he's 24. And I got a feeling they're going to move on from Drew Lock and Geno Smith at some point. Right. Ken Walker could end up being an MVP out of there, dude. He could have 350 touches because they have no other options.
Yeah, Rashad Penny gets hurt, but also, I mean, I don't know. Aren't you a little bit worried because Pete Carroll came out and said they're working on a contract and that he expects DK Metcalf to be a long-term, plan of the future? Aren't you a little bit worried about that? Because whatever Pete Carroll says, the exact opposite happens every single time. I mean, last time they said they're never going to trade Russell Wilson. 2 days later, he gets the trade.
Dude, you bet on talent. You bet on talent. Situation's going to change. Situations as I think it'd be better in the last 2 years. Yeah, so I'm still buying DK all day. I love DK.
Where do you have him ranked? Is he top 10 for the wide receivers? Top 5? Top 5?
Top 5, I don't know. Top 10 easily, but top 5, I don't know. Because quite honestly, after Jefferson and Jamar Chase, it's just a rotating cast of whoever I like better that day.
Jeff, are you buying into either DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett? Do you think that we could see 350 carries over there for Walker? Is there anybody that you should be actually invested in because maybe the value sunk too low? Or are you just staying away from this offense until you start to see some sort of flicker of, oh, wait, we actually have to improve this section of our team?
Yeah, from a redraft standpoint, I'm kind of staying away. From Dynasty, maybe Kenneth Walker? Have we figured out how he likes to be called?
I think it's Kenneth.
Anyway, I think he's going to split some carries with Rashad Penny, and we maybe won't see him take over until like mid-season, if that. It could be. I'm not too high on Walker this year, but going forward, he seems like a good option for that offense, and I like the future, but the present is just what's kind of holding me back a little bit. When it comes to Dynasty, there's so much that, like, I have DK Metcalf as my 13th wide receiver in Dynasty. And the reason why is just because of that offense. It scares me. It's also like Calvin Ridley, right? Where's Calvin Ridley in your Dynasty rankings? Will he play next year? Is he going to be the same type of player?
Well, he'll also be like 36 by the time he's able to play.
But see, I'm just concerned about Metcalf if they can't figure out. I mean, once you lose your franchise quarterback, it's not hard. It's not easy to get another one. We've seen.
Talk to any Browns fans.
The Browns, the Broncos, the Panthers, Washington, Houston. It's not easy. Detroit. Well, Panthers. They never really. Well, they sort of had one, but they didn't know what Panthers? To do with them. I did say Panthers.
Okay. It's tough. You know what happens to your wide receivers. They can never eclipse that high end potential that they have. And yes, situations change, but at the same time, how often do situations change where not only are you paying for the upside of a player, expecting them to hit the upside, but by the time that they actually do end up having a situation that changes, you already overpaid for them, and now it's time to move on from them once they actually hit that ceiling. And I think that's something that could end up happening with DK Metcalf, where you're paying for the ceiling, you're hoping that the situation change, and then all of a sudden, like, he's 28 years old and he finally moves on to a good team, but you already paid 26-year-old price for him at the age of 25, thinking that he could end up getting there. And now by that point, it's over.
Yeah.
Shane,
it's like the Calvin Ridley situation.
I get all that, but the part of why he's a screaming buy for me is because people are already discounting him. Like,
he's still in the top 10 for most people.
I don't know. Most leagues I'm in, he's not looked at as a foundational piece as he was last year at this time. Like, now he's like, oh, he's like my wide receiver 3, and I'm like, yeah, no, I can see that. I'll take him off your hands.
Hey, if you guys do have questions in the chat, I know I forgot to mention this for the NFC North. If you guys have an NFC North question, please put in the chat. But more so, if you guys have a question about the NFC West, since we're on that topic, we will definitely answer them. Put them in the chat. Let us get to them. Let us help you out with your dynasty teams. If you have trade questions, we have the trade expert over here with Shane is the worst. So yeah, I mean, you're our correspondent for landing spots and everything, but you're actually the trade expert over there because that's all you do anyways, is just deal with trades all day. So
shout out to the West Coast people here talking about the NFC West. Woohoo!
Yeah, let's go. Wait, are you doing the Scott Fishbowl at a live location, Jeff?
I am not.
Why not?
The closest location would be Atlanta for me, being in the Charlotte area. There is no Charlotte location, which is kind of bumming, but that's okay. I don't mind doing the online draft. I'll enjoy.
And you get to start like a week earlier than the rest of us.
That's true.
That are doing
That's true. It'll be a little bit different. It'll be a little bit different than years past, but
Shane's throwing a party at his house for the Philly.
There's no Philly one, bro. Closest one to me is Boston, and I'm not going. I'm not going.
Oh my God! All right.
I can't stand those accents. Those are look. I'm from Philadelphia, so I know I can't talk really about accents, but there's nothing worse than that New England Boston accent.
All right, so let's hop over real quick. You talked about things that scared you, Jeff, and I want to know: do the drops from Deebo Samuel or the holdouts make you a little bit nervous? I mean, let's just hypothetically say he does play and he gets a new contract or whatever. Is there a chance that like he might not see the carries that he saw out of the backfield, and that Deebo Samuel might not be the same player, in 2022 that he was in 2021, because he's trying to elongate his career? He knows how this goes for running backs. He wanted to play a wide receiver position because he wanted to play for 5, 6, 7, 10 years versus 3 or 4. He knows what he's doing. I don't think that Deebo Samuel is going to play at least the first 6 to 8 games of the season.
What do you mean you don't think he's going to play?
I think he's going to hold out for the first few games of the season.
Oh, wow. Man, if that happens, that's a huge story. I'm all right. Let's just pretend that he is playing. Unless you want to talk about this more, because
I want to factor this in.
We
saw him as soon as he said Deebo's returning to San Francisco, and they caught him on video saying this. Nah, like I'm not. Like they caught him on a live video saying nah. As soon as he saw a champagne bottle come out, he does not want to play for San Francisco.
Whatever. He's got no leverage whatsoever. He's going to be playing for San Francisco.
He goes to training camp, and then he just doesn't play. He holds out. Players and players doing this more and more often.
And his
it's
contract
not a lot
doesn't
of
toll.
money.
And his contract doesn't toll. There's literally no leverage. His contract does not toll. Oh my God. All right. Anyway, let's deal in reality. Deebo Samuel.
I think the only thing that's kind of holding him back might be Trey Lance. And that's just because the offense might be different. What's that offense going to be like with Trey Lance under center versus Garoppolo? Is Lance going to run more of those plays? Are they going to involve Deebo as much? I don't think as much he'll be involved. Not like last year, not like 8 rushing touchdowns worth. I don't necessarily see that. I do see him being a weapon and being used, but maybe not to the degree and to the production that he was last year. And I think that all kind of comes back to and stems from uncertainty regarding Trey Lance and uncertainty regarding the offense regarding Trey Lance. And then you throw in this other business. I'm not saying you're incorrect here, Chase, but you throw in this other business of him not necessarily wanting to play for the team. And then who knows? Then we get one of these Le'Veon Bell situations where he holds out. Gosh, I hope not. That would be really bad for him, right? But I think Deebo will be okay. I don't see him having the numbers that he did last year. I think that's a career year. When we look at his game logs, when it's all said and done, we're going to see his career stats. We're going to look at 2021 and be like, whoa. And 2022 will be okay. It'll be all right, but you won't have quite the same numbers. And the offense is changing, and I think that's going to be a part of it.
Shane?
Yeah, I mean, he was an 18% target share guy. He turned into a 27% target share guy in one season. So like Jeff said, like that one season just transcended beautiful. It was awesome. I believe he's closer to a pumpkin than he is whatever the thing the pumpkin turned into. What is the pumpkin in the Cinderella? I don't remember.
A coach,
yeah. There you go. So I if I want a sleeper out of there, I want Brandon Ayuk. Maybe Brandon Ayuk is Trey Lance's guy, and then Deebo is still going to be even more mad. Now he's going to be begging for carries. Like, can I please touch the ball? Can you please let me run the ball 4 times a game? Because Brandon Ayuk maybe gets a 25% target share. Or maybe George Kittle actually gets used as a receiving option the way that he should be. Oh wait, Kyle Shanahan's still coaching there. No, I'm gonna go with Brandon Ayuk as my sleeper out of there.
Brandon Ayuk's definitely enticing, as long as he doesn't fall into the doghouse. What's up, Kelly? How you doing? We will do our best to entertain you. And you're more than the third person, okay? We got a small crew in here, but it's also on Facebook as well. Big shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion, of course, for always joining us over there on Facebook. I know I haven't really given you guys too much of a shout out as of late, but thank you guys for once again joining the show. And if you guys are watching on Twitter, make sure you guys go check us out over there on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasy intervention. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasy intervention. We can't see your comments on Twitter, so make sure you guys go send them over to YouTube, and that way we can, keep those questions coming. And make sure you all keep those questions coming about the NFC West. But I actually like Juwan Jennings over there. I think that, he sees the very high percentage of red zone targets. He plays the big slot role well, and they haven't really reinforced the tight end role as much as they should. So we could end up seeing Juwan Jennings play that outside blocking wide receiver role in the red zone, which means that we should see the play action and whatnot. If he ends up getting an extended role from Deebo not being there, and gets involved in the passing game, I think Juwan Jennings could be an absolute steal in the last round of your drafts. I'm not saying go and make sure you go pay top dollar for him, but if you can send like a late third, early fourth in rookie drafts, dude, just go do it. Like, there's no reason to not acquire him. He's a shot just as much as a rookie draft pick would be. Let's move on to the running back situation over there for San Francisco, because we have, Jeff Wilson Jr., who for some reason has fallen off, although he still sees a snapshot. Then we have Elijah Mitchell, who cannot stay healthy whatsoever. And then we have nobody else, really.
Tyrion Davis-Price.
Yeah, you don't like TDP?
Trey Sermon.
Jermichael Hasty. I think he's still there. But
a 5 running back rotation essentially by the end of the season, where each running back's going to have at least 20 carries, it feels like.
Incorrect.
I think Mitchell is their guy here. I think Shanahan I know Shanahan likes speed, and Mitchell is the fastest running back that they have on that roster. And we know that he is, capable of doing well when he's had the chance. He had 5 games last year with 20 carries or more, and he averaged running back 18 in those weeks. What's so funny?
I'm so sorry, Jeff. We had a comment up on the screen. I apologize.
Oh, God.
Said Shane and I are getting back together. We're swingers now. FYI. He's playing the tight end role. I'm playing the slot. I am so sorry, Jeff,
Kelly has jokes.
Oh my God, that was.
What was
hilarious.
I saying about Elijah Mitchell?
Okay, so you bring up he. Oh, sorry, I keep trying to hide it, and Chase keeps hitting it again. You were bringing up 20 plus carries.
Oh yeah, he had 20 plus carries 5 times last year, and in those games where he had at least 20 carries, he finished as the running back 18 on average. And, that's not bad. And I think that the 49ers and Shanahan are going to lean to him. I think that he's the guy that they want to be, the primary running source for that team. So Mitchell would be the guy that I'm kind of buying right now. And especially because people aren't sure. They're like, well, you've got Tyrion Davis-Price. You've got Trey Sermon. I think they're afterthoughts. I think Mitchell is the guy, and I think we're going to find that out really quickly this year.
100% agree with Jeff. And I was not a Mitchell guy. Like all last year, I kept going. Sermon's better. Till about, week 9 or whatever, when I started trading from Mitchell. Because I'm like, well, I want to do well in the playoffs. So let's let go of those Trey Sermon dreams. Every time he got hurt, which was too often, I'll admit, but whatever, it's football. He came back and immediately was the bell cow. His target share increased as the year went on. He's actually talented as opposed to, every other running back on that roster. TDP is a nice bludgeoning item, but he never broke out in college. His production was minimal. He's not a receiver. Like Elijah Mitchell is a lot better than a lot of us gave credit to. And if he would have been a 2nd round running back in the NFL draft, a lot of people would love him right now. And I like him enough that I traded Javonte Williams and a 2023 2nd for Elijah Mitchell and a 2023 1st.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pull the trigger on that, but
well, you're silly because I don't know if we've talked about the 2023 class yet, but I'm going to win every title for the rest of fantasy football from those classes.
We have brought it up once or twice, but no, I just don't know if I can trust him. I mean, his BMI is only 28.8. He can't say how. I don't know if I can trust him moving forward. Totally kidding about the BMI, y'all. I am concerned about his injury history in the NFL in the first year as a bell cow. Reminds me of a little bit of Chase Edmonds coming in, but I did like him as a rookie. Him and Salvin Ahmed, I felt like were both kind of those dudes who I wanted to roster that were undrafted free agents in your dynasty leagues. I don't know if I can trust him moving forward. And I think he's going a little bit too early for me to continue to pursue, especially the way that Kyle Shanahan uses his running backs in the wide zone run scheme. Let's move on to a different team. Let's talk about the number one team in the NFC from last season when it comes to the Super Bowl, of course, the Rams. Cam Akers is somebody who absolutely scares me. He had a Liz Frank injury.
He have certain Achilles.
Yeah. Oh, Achilles. I'm sorry. Liz Frank was
ETN.
ETN. Thank you very much. But we had, Cam Akers come in. He didn't look explosive. There's been no evidence whatsoever of any running back coming back from an Achilles tendon injury being successful. We've seen basketball stars start to have success with that, but outside of that, most other sports, like, it's tough to come back from that. You lose your explosiveness, and we did not see it in the playoffs last year. Sure, he could see the volume, and we love volume, but I don't want to end up with like a Shady McCoy situation where he gets a ton of volume, but he's not efficient in the run game. And all of a sudden you're looking at, 10 points, 12 points per game.
I'm sorry.
Shane, you seem outraged.
Where is this Shady McCoy slander coming from? When exactly was Shady McCoy was one of the best running backs in fantasy.
I was talking about the last 2 years. Sorry. The final years of Shady McCoy's career. God, Shane.
Look,
Eagles
I'm not a Cam Akers guy. Not a Cam Akers guy. We're looking for explosion when the guy tore his Achilles like 4 months before that and he's playing football. Like, dude shouldn't even be walking.
No,
like,
he shouldn't have been.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he shouldn't even been thinking about playing until like 4 months from now. And the fact that he got on the field, like, I'm literally not worried at all about the fact that there was no explosion there. I'm more concerned about, I think he was overrated to begin with. But now, because people like you are saying, well, he had no explosion coming back from an Achilles 4 months after the fact. Now I'm going to be forced to buy Cam Akers.
I mean, what's his ADP? Do you still have DLF's ADP up?
Of course I do. I write for them, and by law, I have to have their ADP up at all times.
It's his background.
It's like being in a fraternity. Like, every once in a while, one of the partners will just text you and be like, "What's Cam Akers' ADP?" And you're like, "It's RB16, sir." So RB16 in Dynasty.
Oh my God.
I have him as my 19th back in Dynasty. I am on your side too, Shane. I don't like Akers. I think you sell him for what you can get, especially if he starts to come out a little bit strong in the preseason, or, hey, Akers looks really good. It's really hard to see that explosion, in practice, or when you're talking about a running back looking good. Well, how is he going to look against competition? And will he be able to outrun people, explode, find that open seam to run through and accelerate through? And we just have not seen it. Mikel LaSure, Deontay Foreman, who else? Who else had Achilles injuries? Marlon Mack, yes.
It's too soon. It's too soon. But
there's a lot. There's so many that we can say did nothing. It is. But at the same time, that future is looking bleak. I am not a fan. I think I have gotten rid of all of my Akers shares. I don't have them anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
I let go of him immediately after the injury last year, when everyone went, "Oh, God, dude, he's so young. Like, we've never had a running back this young. He's going to come back fine." And I was like, "Okay, he's yours then." But,
yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes you wonder, like, about Darrell Henderson and how he could be a value in this year. And you've got options there. Kyron Williams is another one who people don't really necessarily know about, but those are the Elijah Mitchells that come up, and are reborn.
Oh, stop! Kyron Williams is not the next Elijah Mitchell.
No. But I'm just saying that's
yes.
But Kyron Williams could be the next James White.
There you go. Yeah, or like who am I thinking of? Gosh, what the heck was his name? I hate when I can't remember a name.
Oh, yeah, you told me earlier.
There's the guy on the Lions. He was the running back. Theo Riddick. There it is. Yeah. Okay. Did you just say him and I was talking?
J.D. McKissick.
Yeah, Theo Riddick.
No, J.D. McKissick actually is much more explosive than Theo Riddick was with the ball. Theo Riddick was like a little dumpster can, but yeah.
I mean, dude, J.D. McKissick's not good with the ball in his hands either. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the wide receivers over here because we did have a question earlier. It took us so long to get to this question. I got to scroll all the way back up. Hold on, I got to find it. It's about Allen Robinson. Actually, let's talk about it while you guys are discussing Allen Robinson.
God, let me ask a question about Allen Robinson real quick to you, Shane and Chase as well. Do you think it's more likely that Robinson will have 80 catches or 8 touchdowns?
Neither.
That's not the options. Play the game correctly.
I know. I'm just kidding. So I think that Allen Robinson sees something like a Robbie Anderson-esque year this season, where he's not as efficient with the ball. Sure, they'll have to double cover Cooper Kupp and stuff, but I mean, Allen Robinson has never been great with the ball in his hands after the catch. That's actually a big deficiency of his. Meanwhile, his ADOT is always significantly low. I think that we end up seeing a Robbie Anderson-esque year, but with slightly more efficiency because he faces more one-on-one coverage.
I couldn't disagree more. I think Robinson is going to be a really nice wide receiver 2-ish type of player that could potentially have 8 or 9 touchdowns this year in that offense. It's just the reason why you're saying that those facts, and I'm not discounting those facts, but those were stats on poor teams, poor offenses, poor quarterbacks. Now he's got a Ferrari that he's driving as opposed to a Ford Escort.
He's always been the number 1 option though versus the number 2 or possibly number 3.
And that's fine. That means that he can find some openings in the defense while other teams are focusing on Cooper Kupp. In my opinion, Robinson is he's one of the better wide receivers to target in that ADP range.
Is there a chance, and Shane, I'm going to go to you on this one, in addition to everything that we've been talking about, because I want to get your whole input on this, but is there a chance that, Odell Beckham comes back and also ruins your entire fantasy hopes by the end of the season, if they decide to sign him?
Well, yeah, there's a very strong chance because Sean McVay basically said last week if it wasn't for the salary cap, Odell Beckham Jr. be on the team right now. But as we know, the Rams are magicians with the salary cap, so I don't know how long that's actually going to be an issue for him because they'll just make something disappear and then they'll sign him to 3 years, $38 million contract, and we'll all go, I don't understand. It would hurt. Yeah, definitely would hurt. Because right now when I project Allen Robinson, I'm just projecting it's like Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and then like those two are going to just monopolize the targets. You throw Odell in there and it's definitely like, well, we know Cooper Kupp's going to get his still, so that means Odell and Allen Robinson will be fighting for theirs. Although if things stay how they are, I could definitely see Allen Robinson with at least 80 receptions. Because again, that's going to be a 2-man offense. I think they'll stop even wasting targets on Tyler Higbee at this point because I think they pretty much know what he is. And quite frankly, if you have Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp on your roster, you should probably be throwing to them a lot. But yeah, if Odell comes in there, obviously it screws everything up.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to Cooper Kupp. Is he the MVP of the NFC West, or is there another MVP?
He's the wide receiver to knock off the throne right now. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL, and that includes Jamar Chase. That includes Justin Jefferson. He has a way of making himself get open. He understands the game really well. He knows routes extremely well. He's got an excellent rapport with Matt Stafford that he established in just 1 freaking year. And now they're about to do it again. And now the Seahawks aren't the team that they were. Arizona, which we haven't talked about yet, isn't necessarily the team that they were. Mm-hmm. The Rams are poised to be, again, one of the better teams in the NFC. Definitely the NFC West. Perhaps even the entire NFC. And I don't see Kupp dropping off like at all, unless there's an injury or something like that. But I mean, he's very well conditioned, knows, like I said, he's just he's the magician. He's the guy who does everything that Stafford needs him to do and more. So yeah, Kupp is my absolute number one wide receiver without question this year. Not necessarily dynasty, because you got some younger guys who have extreme potential, but Kupp is the guy to beat right now.
Shane, is there anybody else? Could Marquise Brown possibly challenge for the NFC West MVP? I know you don't like Marquise Brown. I'm trying to think.
No, I like Marquise Brown. It's just no.
I don't think Marquise Brown's going to finish in the top 20, top 25.
What?
No.
Yeah, I could see him approaching low end or high end wide receiver 2 numbers, but there's no way he's going to be challenging.
He's a deep ball guy, and I'm not necessarily sure if Kyler Murray is the right quarterback for him, even though they played together in college, right?
But Kyler Murray also has the best deep ball the highest amount of catchable deep targets in the NFL. Last season, he only played 13 games, and he's always been that way. But Kyler Murray is dominant when it comes to the deep ball. He's very good. Plus, he's not afraid to go deep because everybody else ends up playing up close because he can run the ball. So it opens it up to deep. And it's not like Lamar Jackson. We're talking about a guy who can't, throw a deep ball as accurately. I think Kyler Murray's a little bit different animal over there.
See, I don't like Kyler Murray this year. And I didn't necessarily like him last year, too. He got hurt. And I understand that. He played 14 games, 13 I think he started. In those 13 games, how many games do you think he had 3 touchdowns or more, either passing or rushing combined?
That's a good question.
He had 5.
13? Okay, I was going to say 8.
He had 5. That's like less than 40% of the time.
That's crazy.
So a quarterback that's kind of looking the same ADP as him, let's say Dak Prescott. Dak had 11 games of 3 touchdowns or more, and he played 16. That's 70%.
Yeah.
I would rather have Dak than I would Kyler. Now, you could say, well, yeah, he had an ankle injury and there was an issue there, but
I think shoulder too.
Yeah, they've got some questions with DeAndre Hopkins not being there. You've got Marquise Brown, who's a 9-route king, but that's it. He's not a possession receiver. He struggles against press coverage. We know that. He's got that, hey, we were buds in college thing going, but this is the NFL, and I have not seen Brown do enough for me as a possession receiver to think that he can be a consistent top 20, top 25 receiver without having those deep balls. And those deep balls are going to go away when Hopkins returns.
Is Rondelle Moore
a
sleeper?
No.
I love Rondelle Moore, and I can't quit him.
If the league is a copycat league, and we're looking for teams to find the next type of Deebo Samuel. We could potentially see Rondelle Moore in that role where he's running the ball some, he's receiving the ball. But the thing with Rondelle that I'm not necessarily pleased about is his ability to make contested catches. That's not him. He's a gadget guy. He's a guy, an open space guy. He's not your guy that you want to throw the ball to 13 yards down the field, hoping to get a first down on 3rd and 8. That's not.
Deebo was the same way, right?
Deebo
had one of the highest drop rates in the NFL last season.
He has more of that tenacity or grit. I'm not sure if Rondelle Moore, at least I haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure if Rondelle Moore can play that type of role.
Okay,
I don't know.
It's interesting. I love that take. It is interesting, and it's something where, maybe he gets his average yards from target like 1.2 yards because he sees so many targets behind the line of scrimmage.
He's a gadget guy. That's what he is. But
so was Deebo though.
No, Deebo was a wide receiver.
Yeah, Deebo was a lot more in college, and I think he just needed the right opportunity and the right personnel in San Francisco to really kind of.
Rondelle Moore was great 1 year in college. Yes,
before he got hurt, and then they pulled him the second year.
He was great 1 year in college. He had a breakout age of like 12, and it was mystifying. And I loved him too. And he got 2nd-round draft capital last year, and I was all in. And then he went out, and they stopped targeting him for a reason. They decided that Antoine Wesley needed to see more targets than him as the year progressed. We blame it, whatever. You earn your targets. You're Rondelle Moore, you're a 2nd-round wide receiver. They wanted to use you. They wanted to. but you sucked so bad, they said, no, we're going to use this 6-year undrafted free agent, Antoine Wesley, as opposed to targeting you.
Rondelle Moore has potential, right? Just like we've seen rookies take a while to understand the playbook, understand the nuances of the NFL, the speed, everything. And I think that second year in, I think maybe we could see something a little bit more from him and, kind of see some growth, some development. But I'm not sure if he's your possession type of receiver. I just don't see that yet.
Yeah, the scary thing is Rondelle Moore, he has to create separation in order to receive the ball. And Kyler Murray likes to see separation before he throws the ball. And I think that's the biggest issue. When you talked about it, Jeff, like Kyler Murray, to target a guy that's covered down the field, has to see an open guy. And Rondelle Moore does not have the stature in order to earn targets, anything beyond 7 yards or anything before, 14 or 15 yards. But let's move on to the running back situation, because we did have a question up here about the running back room. I mean, is James Conner going to be an RB1 this season? He had the efficiency to do so last season. He might have actually finished as an RB1 last season if it was back end. I mean, at least in points per game, he was up there. Where are you guys drafting James Conner? Are you trying to acquire him if you're a team trying to win now in Dynasty? What are your thoughts?
He's one of those guys that I'll pivot to when I'm trading running backs, because I think I've made it fairly known that I'm not a fan of the running back position as a group. So I'm always looking to move him. He's a guy I like to pivot to, but I don't think you can expect what you saw last year. I mean, how many touchdowns did he have? I mean,
13, something like that. 15,
he had 18
16?
touchdowns.
18. Wow.
18 touchdowns.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and I'll say this, in 2018, he did have 13 touchdowns. So it's not like it's a fluke, but it's just, that's a lot of touchdowns. And, look, regression's a thing that happens. There's a reason that it's a word and that it exists, because it's something that happens. And he stayed relatively healthy last year, which is not a James Conner-like thing. Not that he's injury prone per se. Just throughout his career, he hasn't been great at staying on the field. So if you're betting on James Conner to repeat what he did last year, it was the RB7 in points per game. I think you're a little too optimistic.
I think everyone was surprised with James Conner last year. I mean, the guy signed a $1.5 million contract as a prove-it year, right? I mean, here's a guy who's had multiple MCL injuries. He had a high ankle sprain. He's had concussions. He's had shoulder injuries. He re-injured his shoulder. There's a lot that he's been through. Not to mention the stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. I mean, that's a lot right there.
For that reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only thing that I am concerned about with Conner is just his ability to stay healthy. And I was surprised that what we saw last year happened, because that just doesn't really happen for guys like him, because he's always hurt. For him to, maybe he turned the corner. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'm not injury prone anymore. Is that even possible? But I don't know if he's someone that you can rely on as like a second round pick. I wouldn't necessarily target him in redraft as a second round pick, whereas some people might go in the third round, which is more of like his sweet spot. But
so I've had a couple comparisons that James Conner is pretty much the same as Dalvin Cook in terms of production efficiency, like all those things. So why wouldn't you go, or why would you go with Dalvin Cook over James Conner in terms of, ADP, in terms of value? I mean, it feels like they're at very similar points in their career where they could easily both fall off a cliff by next season.
They are, and I think maybe the biggest thing with Cook outside of his ACL injury is the shoulder injury as well. And Cook is not really someone that I like to target either, even though his ADP is much higher. I have less interest in Cook as other people, I think. So I'm not really the one to say there. I'm just kind of standoffish a little bit on Conner as well as Cook. Those are two guys that are...
So you're out on both.
They're sort of. I mean, I will take Cook at a decent ADP just because I also think that he's going to get a lot of catches this year too. They're talking about him more as a receiver, which
I love that.
Is ringing bells to me. That's good.
Jeff, what's a decent ADP? Are we talking like
what for Cook?
110? Yeah, for Cook, 110,
Oh,
112, 2, 4. Like, where does he actually hit where you're like, okay, I'm drafting him?
Well, if we're talking redraft here, and like I want to take Derrick Henry ahead of Cook in redraft. Let's see who else. I would take Cook ahead of Aaron Jones, but I would take Joe Mixon ahead of Cook. I would take McCaffrey ahead of Cook. I would take Kamara ahead of Cook. I don't know if I draft Cook, I draft him thinking, well, let's see how this goes. I'm just kind of like.
That has to be be diversifying your portfolio at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, shoot, maybe I will hit something right. I mean, we've seen what Cook can do. Obviously, he's a good player and he's a good fantasy asset. I'm just a little leery.
All right, Shane, where do you have James Conner? Like, and can we spend some time? I know that you actually want to elaborate on this. Why hasn't Benjamin actually been more of a factor in this rushing offense?
Because he's terrible.
Poor Benjamin.
No, man! Like
everyone's waiting for
Benjamin,
Benjamin,
Ahmed, and Elijah Mitchell, and then Benjamin. Those are my three. Those are my trio.
I loved Benjamin, right? Until the draft came and the NFL was like, no, you're widely incorrect on your thoughts on Benjamin. He's not good. So, and then Arizona agreed with them and never gave him the ball. So James Conner, if we're looking at cost, I'll take James Conner over Dalvin Cook because I'm not going to draft a running back like Dalvin Cook in Dynasty or in redraft where it's going to cost, where you need to basically pay up for them. I'm just never going to have him on my roster. Where James Conner, pretty good chance I could end up with him on my roster.
All right. So do we have a sleeper from this division? And can we talk about which division you'd like to have more fantasy assets from, this or the NFC East? The NFC West or the AFC West? Which one would you rather have assets in terms of stacking your players, in terms of making sure that you have the highest scoring division on your roster?
I'd rather have the AFC West. I mean, shoot, that's the OK Corral. It's lots of guns ablazing there. I mean, you've got Mahomes, you've got Herbert, you've got Derek Carr now with Devontae Adams, and you've got Russell Wilson. Hello, I will take the AFC West happily right there.
Is there another division? And I'm going to go to Shane on this, or I'm going to ask Shane the same question I asked you, and I'm going to give you a chance to think about it, Jeff. Jeff, is there another division that you would rather have more assets in terms of stacking your roster than the NFC West outside of the AFC West? And Shane, do you have the AFC West or the NFC West on this one?
It's got to be the AFC West. I mean, I can't really add anything that Jeff just said. It's the quarterback corral out there. There's going to be a lot of, I was reading Dwayne McFarland. I think he had an article on PFF today talking about correlation. And basically a gist of what I was getting to is that he was talking about teams that would expect it 50-point plus games or contests. And it's just littered with AFC West teams. Like a bunch of them are going to there's going to be shootouts. Like I just want any piece I can get off those AFC West teams. So much so that I'd even could hold on to Hunter Renfrow, and even though I expect him not to do much.
I love Hunter Renfrow this year.
Hunter
Renfrow this year. Why?
Patriots love the slot.
Well, yes, and just the fact that he's such an underrated route runner. I don't think he's going away anywhere.
We'll discuss Hunter. Jeff, we'll bring you back on if you're down to come back on to discuss the AFC West if you'd like.
All right, yeah,
in like a month or so.
Sounds good.
But did you think of another division outside of the NFC West that you would have second to the AFC West? Or you just want to stack your players? You want to stack as many?
Not really. I mean, no. Maybe like the AFC North with Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh,
That's
and
a lot
Cleveland.
of tough defenses, though. That's going to be a lot of low-scoring games, I feel like.
Well, I mean, you've got Burrow, you've got Lamar Jackson, right? You've got Yeah, well, Pittsburgh, you've got Pickett, but I mean, at least they have some fantasy talent there.
87 wide receivers.
You got Mitch Trubisky.
But I mean, yeah. It's not the NFC South, gentlemen. It's not the AFC South. It's not, let's see, the NFC East-ish, AFC East. I mean, there's potholes in the road no matter what path you take here.
The only answer is the AFC West.
Is the AFC West.
I'll tell you what, the NFC East could be a fruitful fantasy division.
Those defenses are going to be dominant this year.
Carson
Wentz is going to get hurt. You have Daniel Jones at quarterback. Jalen Hurts might not be able to complete a pass.
What's Jalen Hurts?
No. See, now I think that Daniel Jones is actually a quarterback who I think might take a turn forward here this year. With Brian Daboll's offense and with Saquon Barkley now becoming more of a piece in that offense, he's got a chance. Now, I'm not going out to say that Daniel Jones is going to be a top 12 type of quarterback, but he could do top 15, which is hard to get to. And I think Jalen Hurts has top 3 potential.
Well, damn, you should have been on the show with the NFC South, NFC East last week. Damn it, I messed up. That's on me. Jeff, we got to get out of here, man. Let everybody know where to find you. Let everybody know what's going on with you, of course, and how they can help support you.
Absolutely. You see my Twitter, right? I can't even point. There we go. Right there, Jeff Hasley. So you can always find me on Twitter. You can find me at footballguys.com. My rankings are there. Everything from redraft, dynasty, rookie, IDP, whatever it might be. I'm there. Not doing any articles until the season begins, but you can find me there as well. I'm doing some collaborative stuff here and there. But yeah, Football Guys, primarily the main location for me in terms of fantasy content. And I'm also doing lots of video editing and design work for different sites, Champions Round, as well as 4for4 and the Fantasy Doctors. Have you checked out their YouTube channel? I do a lot of stuff for them. So
that's awesome, man. And I'm stoked for you. Like, everything seems like you're going that way. You tell me, you were learning different aspects of that business. So I'm excited to see you launch off.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's good. It's fun work, as I like to call it, because I get to do design work and then kind of combine it with sports and football and fantasy. It's like, wow, that's cool. That's a combination that I never really thought that I could have, and now I do, and I'm enjoying it.
All right, Shane, where can we find you? You're on mute.
Let's pretend we know what he's saying.
He is saying, "Oh God, I should have just done like
I should cover
my mouth."
You should have just been like,
"Oh my God, that's the first time I've ever thought of that," and I'm so mad at myself right now. I wish I would have just been like, "So you can find me on OnlyFans, OnlyFans.com/JonesOnly.com."
JonesOnly.com.
Farmers Only.
Yeah. Dynasty Trades HQ podcast. Dynasty Trades in 5 on the YouTube. This show every Wednesday. Manic and Chill once in a while, and then writing for DLF and sometimes for Fantasy Data.
Let's go.
Once in a while for Trophy Smack.
Yeah. I actually, we got to talk about that after the show. I know that you have to run, but guess what? I'm going to hold you for 2 more minutes. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys want to go find me, you can find me over there at TrophySmack.com. We have plenty of stuff going on, and especially a Scott Fish Bowl giveaway right now. If you guys go to the Trophy Smack page over there on Instagram, and you go tell us who you think will be a league winner, and you tag us in the post, all the descriptions. You got to go to the Instagram page. You got to see everything that we have to qualify you to do so. But as long as you do all that stuff, you will actually be entered in to win a spot in the Scott Fish Bowl 12. So go check that out. Jeff might be working with us on some Scott Fish Bowl stuff here shortly. We're very, very excited to have that. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.